Okay, let's start over on this video thing since my phone battery died. Oh, alright. This guy, I need to make some changes on. But all in all, I'm very proud of it because I can hold an engine block on it. No issue. It's not anchored to the floor, but I can physically stand on it and jump up and down. There's not a single wiggle or rattle or wobble. This framework here is anchored to the exterior wall of the house. It's also supported by a concrete foundation right there. And the front posts are all 4x4s. And yeah, so it works really well. I never use it. Shop rag dispenser, this lid here that you put shop rags in there, different types, or gloves over here, and then you pull them out. And down here, the little spindle to put your paper towel on, and I completely misjudged how much room I needed for the top of the paper towel. It needs to be more than a knuckle. That was a first try. Following similar plans from a YouTube channel called Shop Nation. If you haven't seen it, check it out. This guy's does some really cool stuff. Really, really good walkthroughs on how to do it. I like what he does. I am rebuilding this. So every little section here with the notches cut out for the tools, I'm just gonna cut it off. Sandpaper discs, tape rolls, have a little panel across the front. For all my power tools, I'm looking at building a power tool charging station. I don't really know exactly where. I don't know if it's going to be off on the side of the workbench over here. More than likely will be along this wall. Yeah. But big things I need to do is get a welder and air compressor in here, which means I need to get outlets for 240 wired in out here again, so I can repair the trunk of this bastard. Let me go ahead and grab my trunk key. There we go. I think I have compensation problems. Okay. So yeah, I don't think a trunk is supposed to be that porous. It's not exactly structurally sound anymore. If I can get at least a decent MIG welder, I'm looking at the Vulcan from Harbor Freight. I'm an E4 in the Army. I don't make enough money to pay for a big old Miller welder, or I can't afford Miller. They're just so far out of my budget, so I'm probably gonna have to go Harbor Freight here. But I've heard good things about the Vulcan. Let's see, I could tackle this mostly with cutoff wheels, flapper wheels, some drill bits for the spot welded components, and for the most part, just good old-fashioned elbow grease. But I know that I can find replacement floor pans, trunk pans online, and sections like this I can just go ahead and clean up, hit with some rust converter, and then reseal that, and that's not an issue. Biggest issue I need to take care of is deep in that wheel well there, typical problem for just about any classic cars. And those wheel wells, they would gather out junk and moisture, and that's where it would manifest as rust off in the fender wells over here. And I have a few spots out here of cancer that I gotta clean up. I had to push my donor car Monte Carlo in with my Chevelle, and I caught a little mud. So, oops. So I've got to replace the trunk pans. That's obvious. My trunk lid's fine, not an issue. Most of the body's fine. Biggest exterior body issues I have with this car. Oh, I got this with some WD at some point. My trunk latch does not like to return back to its original starting position. Little bit of rust here that I'm pretty certain looks even uglier once you remove the windshield and trim. But around the quarter windows, really good shape, like tiniest bits of surfaced rust. But through the rest of it's actually really, really good shape. If my phone will ever focus, forgive me. The biggest issue I really feel I'm going to have is trying to get the body panels straight, because these doors are so big and heavy. They have that sag. So the top of the door will sit further in than the body line here. And out at the bottom will actually sit outward because just so much weight on these hinges. These are just god awful long. But I do love this car. I don't really have any rust at all around the lower section of the front windshield near the cowl. I'm going to end up shipping my dash out to Just Dashes and get that repaired and just completely restored. I don't know what I'm going to do about the interior panels. Just how the hell nobody remakes the interior trim plastics for the back half of these cars. They make some of the stuff for the Ford section, like the A-pillar. They make the door panels, some styles of door panels in plastic. Nobody remakes the base model ones, but I can get those. I'm going to pull the gauge cluster from 74 Monte Carlo. It's out in my driveway. Dalton Gallup. Shout out to you, man. Make the best of that situation work for the both of us. But yeah, I'm going to swap this out for the round style Monte Carlo. And if you can't tell through the light, there's some major dents on my floorboards here. So if you look right here, it makes this crest. I'm pretty certain that happened after this car was stolen and stripped from me. I have a couple of spots here where you can see a little daylight, and so all that adds together to, on both sides, see the dent there. I have an even larger one going the opposite direction right here. I'm going to just go ahead and get both front floor pans and cut out and replace what needs to be replaced. No rust on the firewall. No rust on the rear section of the floor pan. No rust hardly anywhere else on this car at all. I mean, for everything this car's been through, for how old it is, and it's still amazing to me that it's in the shape it's in. Oh. So, my front seat is just dead. All of the foam was just missing out of the driver's side back end of it. So, in an effort to help save my spine, driving this back from Georgia, my wife stuck in a piece of foam she picked up at Joann's Fabrics, and just my mother-in-law bought me a car cover and we slapped it on there, and it's the best of a bad situation. But we're gonna eventually go to bucket seats. So while I do have a 700 R4 built by Monster Transmission in this car, that's a great transmission. I've had zero issues with it performing. I mean, it has performed flawlessly. I mean, for the money. It's the same cost to get a transmission from them as it was to go to any local transmission shop and have them do a rebuild. And I was having some rough experiences with local transmission shops at the time. None of them was warranty and work. I had some sketchy work done by people that shouldn't have, people of family relation, and not going that route ever again. But Monster Transmission, they beat their price, left it with a warranty, and it has not skipped a beat. Even with my own personal stupidity involved in installation and modification to this car, and now it's got a bigger camshaft than that torque converter can handle. It's taking the hits and keeps on ticking. So shout out to you, Monster Transmission. You make a phenomenal product. The engine bay is still clean. I like the way it looks. There's a few finishing touches I have to do. Let me get this out of the way. Yeah, the sign you don't really drive your car often, battery tenders. Get my flashlight. My engine bay is still relatively good. Just a little dusty and dirty because I've driven around a little bit. Well, I have an LED light in my flashlight, so yeah, sorry, it's got a flicker on the camera. I'm eventually going to be swapping out my brake booster because that's the original one from '74, and I'm going to go with a Willwood aluminum for my master cylinder. Somebody please tell me what the hell this component right here is. And if you know what it is, also could you hook a man up and show me where to find one? I have no idea what it is. It's one of them things I never really had on other vehicles. I can't find the replacement anywhere I look because I don't know what it is. So I don't know what to search for. And I need to find better hood hinges. These things are so flimsy. I hate them. But the engine's great. I need to give her a refresh on the bottom end. As soon as I do that, I'm upping the compression a little bit to make better use of the camshaft I put in there. Because I put a Comp Cans Extreme Energy hydraulic flat tap at 274. Great camshaft. Love it. And I've broken it in, and I haven't had an issue with it, but I will say this much right now. With what I'm seeing all around the world with newer flat tappets constantly wiping lifters out, or lifters failing, wiping out the camshaft and everything, even with proper break-in and proper break-in fluids, man, I gotta tell you, it does leave a little tinge of fear in my head. If I ever have to replace it, I'm definitely going hydraulic roller to at least, ounce of prevention is a pound of cure. I need to make a cover to cover up where my, AC and heating fan was. But the rest of this engine bay I can easily worry about later. The biggest things I need to do with this car, really need to do, is replace this radiator fan shroud with one that is a lot more secured, because right now it keeps drooping down and hitting my radiator fan. I need to work on the wiring for this thing and see if I can't improve upon some early mistakes I made. Clearance of the tires a little better around the fender wells because they are rubbing under full compression on the front suspension. If the tires are turned, it does still rub the inner fender. But the most pressing concerns I have are to get this trunk repaired, to get my dash repaired, work on getting this motor pulled, the bottom end refreshed with a better compression, and double check all the nuts and bolts and make certain everything's still good. I need to get the right torque converter, transmission cooler, 373 rear gears, Detroit True Track for the posi traction, and then I can start working on the body panels on this car. For me, as myself in particular, I feel like get it driving right first before you worry about making it look right. It just seems like a slap in the face if you see a real pretty car, like you see somebody's beautifully restored 69 Camaro at a car show, but it runs like shit because they haven't done any of the mechanical stuff. They spent all their money on paint and body, and then when they go around to getting the mechanicals of the car sorted, the paint and body gets torn up. I'd rather get the mechanical side of this vehicle, the mechanics and electronics finished, then move along to paint and body. So she'll probably look like she does right now for a good period of time until I get everything else sorted first. I mean, there's little things I'm going to do along the way. Like I have to replace my weather stripping. It's wet weather stripping. I have to replace things like that. You know, I may have to go and sand down and seal up parts of my roof before it becomes a problem, because while I don't have any holes in the roof, you know, I don't want it to become a problem. You know, but that's my updates. I'm probably going to keep these windshield stickers on here, you know, the inspection sticker, my registration, all that, you know, because it's representative of a very rough period. That was back when the last time this car had seen the road was back in 2010. And then a couple years after that, she was stolen and stripped for parts. I have her back. I have 2 donor cars that helped. One helped resurrect her. One, you know, that's my brown 1974 Chevelle that's back with family in Texas. You know, I want to get that thing up here and see what else I can pull, because it was a factory stick shift car, so I have the 3 pedal box that I can pull from it for when I do my manual transmission conversion here. Yes, I talked all that about Monster Transmission, and it is a phenomenal transmission, but I do want to put a T56 in this thing, and I'm really hoping I can afford it, but I want to try to get S1 sequential. You know, just would love to be able to bring this thing out autocross and just slapping that shifter rolling through the gears. Something just primal about it. There's a few body modifications I'd like to do down the road. Like modifications visually to this car that I would love to do. Well, number one, I would love to replace the incandescent bulbs that are in all the lights on this car with LED panels. Not just a stick-in LED bulb like you find at AutoZone or anything like that. No, I want a true wired-in LED panel so that when you hit the brakes or turn on your turn signal, it's very, very obvious and bright. It's a safety factor. You know, they make plenty of headlights. Like Holly came out with a new headlight that's nearly a stock appearing replacement that brings these up to modern day LED style headlights. I don't know if it's LED or whatever, but it's a much more powerful headlight for these that just nearly bolts right in. Visual changes on the outside that you would be able to see is I'd like to find the handles for a 90s, late 90s, early 2000s model Buick Century. The body line is very similar to the body curve on this door, and it's a mechanical style door handle that's very similar. The inner workings work very, very, very similar to the inner workings on these door handles. But the door handle itself sits flush in the body. So it's a very smooth, clean appearance that won't stick out in your face like a lot of aftermarket door handles do that I've seen done. I do want to try to flush the front and rear windshields like modern style windshields are and remove this trim. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I just like the new, cleaner appearance. I would like to see if there is a way if I could flush this quarter window to the outside of the car, just like the front and rear windshields, because I would really, really, really like that smooth, clean appearance. So right now everything is sunk in. I can literally stick my pinky in there, and I don't like that. I want to remove this trim. It will get replaced with something like, all right, ran out of recording time. I'm going to try to remove this trim, and I want to see about finding a round stock that I can weld against it that can be a break off for water runoff, but it will be much sleeker and a true part of the body, so it's not a channel for water to get caught up inside. That's because this right here, that's just a way for water to get stuck up in the body panel, run down, and cause rust. If there's a way for it to shed the water away before it gets underneath the body panels, that's just a much better scenario in my opinion. I'm not a big stereo guy. I feel like if you have the right car with the right engine, you really don't need a huge stereo, but I would like to get something decent, a couple of speakers through this car. Some at the kick panels, 1H kick panel, probably a 1H. I buy the quarter. Yeah, that would be the quarter panels. The trunk panel there, or package tray as it's called. I don't need subwoofers or anything like that. I would just like to get a few speakers in this thing with it insulated and sound dead, and that way if I put a modern style stereo in there, that can Bluetooth pair to my phone, I can just listen to some music while I cruise, because I do have plans of cruising Hot Rod Power Tour with this thing, just taking road trips with my wife, which if it wasn't for the spun bearing, I would easily be doing right now. It performs that well. Just, what can you do? It's a motor that was sitting untouched since 1987. That's 34 years. And while it was sitting untouched, it was sitting in a field in Arizona inside of another 74 Malibu. And my goofy self had it picked up, put in this car, and given a mild tune-up, and I drove it halfway across the country. And it performed flawlessly. It showed a couple teething issues, but it performed pretty flawlessly. I would really, really like to figure out how to get some 335s or 345s squared on all four corners of this car. Because right now I have 295s, I believe. Let me come around and take a look. On the non-muddy side where I can read the tires. If y'all hear some snap, crackle, and popping, it's just my knees, Yay, military life. Okay, so these are 275s. 275 60-15s. They're a meaty tire, They're meaty, but I would really like to run something truly massive on all four corners. I would like to run some 335s. I can't keep my 15 inchers. I love my Bassett wheels here. They just have that proper look for the road. Something just mean and outlawish about this style. I love it, but limited on brake selection. So if I do step up to bigger brakes, these wheels will have to go. Yeah. Yep. Not much room in there. But future plans are stick shift, big block, big brakes, big suspension, and big attitude. She don't have to look any different than she does right now. Frankly speaking, I think the way she looks right now just tells a big story about what's happened. She tells her own story, and I don't need to do much for that. But eventually, she will have the body restored, paint job that's appropriate for the level of work done to her, an interior restoration that's appropriate for the level of love given to her. And then at that point, Then I'll go flog around some autocross courses, because there's no better way to treat a fully finished car than to go beat on it. I don't own this car for it to sit in my garage. I own this car for me to drive it. So any of you out there that just stare at your car sitting in the garage and drive her once or twice a year, shame on you. But yeah. Anybody got any comments, suggestions, or information on where I can acquire some of the things that were talked about that I hadn't mentioned? Because I don't know anybody that makes LED panels for the taillights of these cars. I don't know anybody who makes big brake kits directly for these cars. Nobody makes big brake kits for these, but I know that you can piece them together by like calling up Bear or Willwood, and you can figure out similar GM chassis that have products out there for them. But yeah, I'm gonna head back inside, enjoy my strawberry milk, and play some video games, because, you know, I swear I'm an adult. Don't judge me.